right, students, it is me. You knew that, didn't you? It is time for me to read a book from Epic, of which we've already read 2 chapters, so we're on chapter 3. We have elections for the president in our country every 4 years. And there are less than 2 weeks before our next election. It's very exciting. So would you please open up Epic, use the link in Google Classroom under login info, and or maybe there's a link in the checklist. That would be easier. And watch this video at the same time, and so you can read as I read, and let's learn about this very important event in our country. Election Day. The U.S. Constitution allows each state to run its own elections. Some states require photo identification to vote. That would be like a driver's license or something else that has an adult's picture on it. People must register to vote before the election in some states. In other states, people may register on Election Day. Election Day is the 3rd of November, which is a Tuesday. Choosing a date. The general election takes place on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Congress chose this day. Back in the 1800s, many Americans were farmers. Officials did not want the election to interfere with their harvest or travel time. Weather was another concern. Most Americans lived far from their polling places. Many had to travel at least 2 days to get there and back. The first Tuesday in November gave farmers all day Monday to travel. They could then vote on Tuesday and return home. Polling places. And we usually have a polling place on campus at our school. You may recall that people would vote up on the stage in the MU. This is where they vote. People usually go to a specific polling place. It is determined by where they live. A polling place could be any public or private building. It may be a local church, a school, or fire station. Trained staff work at the polling place. They are known as poll workers. In some places, they are also called election judges or election inspectors. They make sure that elections are run fairly and smoothly. They set up voting. Oh, I like that picture there. Looking in the mirror, I guess. A voter casts his ballot at a laundrette. That's like a place where you do your laundry, being used as a polling station in San Francisco. You could do your laundry and vote at the same time. Woo! Whoops. Come on. There we go. Oh, and Ms. Winship kind of interrupted that sentence. They set up voting equipment. They hand out ballots. They also register new voters. Most poll workers are paid for their work. Each political party also has unpaid volunteers at the polling site, and site means place. They are called poll watchers or monitors. They are there to make sure no one votes who is not supposed to vote. They can make a formal challenge if they suspect fraud, and fraud would be like someone trying to trick people into doing something they're not supposed to do. That would be fraud. Ballots. Names of registered voters appear on an official list. Each voter's name is checked off as he or she arrives at the poll. Voters then receive ballots. This is what they will use to vote. Voting is done in secret. The voter enters a booth or other enclosed space. He or she casts a vote in private. Paper ballots are used in many states. Voters mark their choices with a pen. Different styles of ballots are used. Voters may color in a circle or draw a line. They place the ballots in a scanner. It records the votes. And so the picture that you see there is someone feeding a ballot into a scanner in Brooklyn, New York. So I have to say, as we're reading this chapter, things are not how they usually are, right? I think all states have have mail-in ballots. Not everybody has to do it that way, but most people, including Ms. Winship, got her ballot in the mail, and then I dropped it off a few days ago at a ballot box, an official ballot box. So you're reading about what usually happens. They don't have a book on voting during a pandemic. We won't let that stop us, will we? By the time you vote, when you're 18, it'll be this way. All right, perspectives, and that's points of view. National Voter Registration Act. In 1993, Congress passed the National Voter Registration Act. It makes registering to vote easier. It offers more places for voters to register. The act also prevents states from removing names from registries. In its first year, the act saw more than 30.6 million citizens registered to vote. So people have not always been allowed to vote. Remember that I think it was in September we celebrated the 100th anniversary of women being able to vote. And it wasn't until around 1960 that women of color could vote. And in some places, it's pretty hard for people to vote. I think in Texas, they only have one voting place for each county. And that's not very many places to vote. So it can be hard for people to vote even in 2020. All right, on with it. Digital ballots are also common. And so you know what digital means. Oh, virtual learners, on the computer, right? Voters use a touch screen, mouse, or keyboard to mark their choices. Votes are recorded directly on the computer in some states. In other states, voters receive a token or receipt. They place it in a ballot box to be counted. Absentee ballots are another way to vote. And you know, if someone's absent, they're not at school. In this case, an absentee ballot would be someone who's absent from the polling place, who doesn't go there. Generally, Americans living abroad, that's outside of our country, and elderly citizens vote this way. College students and soldiers can also cast absentee ballots. They must request or ask for a ballot from their home state. They mark their choices on the ballot. Then they mail it back to the state. The results. Election workers review the ballots. They make sure everything is counted correctly. Then the results are given to the state's Secretary of State. He or she collects the results from the entire state. The Secretary of State officially announces which candidates won. And students, I think that it's really important for you to read this book because it's all happening right now. And some people are really worried about the election not being carried out fairly. Other people think it's going to be fair, and we will just have to see what happens. But boy, you're part of history right now. All right. Go ahead and write your journal about what you read.